Good evening. Welcome to an evening to experience ShelterBox. I'm Steve Horan, a ShelterBox volunteer and chairman of ShelterBox USA's board of directors. 2023 has been an extraordinary year because of the rapidly increasing need for shelter. 1 in 77 people have been forcibly displaced due to human conflict or natural disaster. Let that sink in for a minute. 1 in 77 people around the world are without shelter today. The need for ShelterBox's work has never been greater. And because of you, ShelterBox has been able to respond to that need. Tonight, you're going to hear about the amazing work ShelterBox is doing around the world. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your continued support. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Kerri Murray, President of ShelterBox USA.
Hello, I'm Kerri Murray, and it's an absolute privilege to serve as the president of ShelterBox USA. Thank you for being here for our annual Evening to Experience ShelterBox, where we take you to the front lines of the life-saving humanitarian mission of ShelterBox. Tonight, we have viewers from all across the nation and all across the world that are tuning in to help support ShelterBox. Some of you are coming to learn about the organization for the very first time. Thank you so much, and we're grateful for your participation. During tonight's Hour of Inspiration, we hope that you will be interactive. On the lower right-hand side of your screen, you can send in questions, you can chat, and if you're so inspired, you can make a transformational gift. You can make a donation to support the work of ShelterBox. Thank you so much for being here. As a global humanitarian relief organization, ShelterBox is working to tackle one of the biggest issues that's plaguing our world today, this massive displacement of people. Today, over 110 million people are displaced in our world from disasters, conflicts, and the impacts of climate change. This is more than any other time in recorded history. Over 2023, ShelterBox has responded to some of the world's biggest disasters and crisis situations, from the series of earthquakes in southern Turkey and northern Syria, the earthquake in Morocco, flooding in Pakistan, in Libya, to also the war in Ukraine. In addition to these massive headline-grabbing emergencies, we've also continued to respond to some of the world's worst conflict situations that are displacing millions, from Syria to Cameroon to Mozambique to Sudan. The mission of ShelterBox has remained consistent for 23 years. No family without shelter after disaster. And whether disaster or conflict situation, shelter is one of the most transformational differences we can make in someone's life. So when ShelterBox got started 23 years ago, it was based on the simple premise of what are the things you need to sustain your life if you lose everything in an instant and you're forced to flee your home. The center of gravity for what we do is shelter. And I'm going to step inside now and show you what's called our standard relief tent, which we continue to distribute all across the world. Just this week, we've been distributing these in Morocco. This is a double wall tent. It looks like a recreation tent, but it's not. This is the place that a family will call home when they've been displaced. It's made for humanitarian purposes. Families will live in this tent for a period of months when they've been displaced. In addition to the standard relief tent, there's a variety of different shelters that we provide, different tent solutions, different tarp solutions, and we're going to share some of those with you tonight. But in addition to the shelter, we provide the essential aid items that help people set up a household and get back on their feet again. So often in disasters, you've lost power. So ShelterBox provides waterproof solar lanterns to provide essential light in these communities. In addition, you often have had contamination of the water source. So we provide water purification. This filter can filter 1,000 liters of water. In addition, we provide basic containers to store clean water. In addition, we provide basic things like cooking sets. So often in disasters, you see aid organizations bring food and water, but what are you going to prepare a hot meal? How are you going to boil water? So we include a whole stainless steel cooking set for the family as well. In addition, we provide essential items to help people sleep. So that could be waterproof ground mats, blankets, also aid items like gloves, scarves, hats in cold weather climates. In addition, basic things like mosquito nets to protect against vector-borne disease. And inside the tent, as you can see here, we actually have these screens that can help create rooms within this tent so you can have separate living areas within this space. In addition, basic things like tool sets for families, and the one thing that we do is we customize the aid. So what started off as a box 23 years ago is now a set of customized solutions and aid packages based on the unique circumstances that our recipients find themselves in, and it's always different. A typical custom aid package like you see here that will serve one displaced family is roughly $1,000 delivered. But over the past several years, ShelterBox has been continually innovating to bring low-cost, high-impact solutions that enable us to serve many more families. So in addition to this aid package, ShelterBox has our Shelter Kit package. And these allow us to serve many people in disasters and conflict situations. This is roughly $100 delivered. And inside this bag are the tools and the tarpaulins and the fixins that can help repair a home that's been damaged or create a single room structure. And this is the place that a family will call home in so many parts of the world. In Ukraine, we're using these to help repair damaged homes. And in the Philippines, we deployed thousands of these after Super Typhoon Rai last year. In Burkina Faso, which has had some of the highest rates of global displacement, we're providing Sahelian-style tents, locally appropriate, culturally appropriate shelters for these families. We're also providing more semi-durable structures with mud brick in Cameroon. And then in places like Yemen, where families are displaced for a period of years, we're seeing longer-term, more durable structures, providing things like the iron net solution. But whether it's a disaster situation, conflict situation, it's a tent or it's a tarp, the purpose is always the same: to provide a place to call home for the families to recover and provide the building blocks for their self-recovery when they've been displaced. Over the last 23 years, ShelterBox has brought life-saving shelter and support to nearly 3 million people. That's in over 300 different disaster and crisis situations in 100 different countries. Some of the notable responses over the years have included the Indian Ocean tsunami. That's the largest aircraft in the world that you're looking at. And that was thousands of families who received life-saving shelter, to the earthquake in Haiti, which killed over 250,000 people, to our work in the U.S., which has included Katrina, Sandy, and most recently Hurricane Harvey, to the long-standing civil war in Syria, which has been the longest single response in ShelterBox's history. It is the quiet work of ShelterBox in places like Syria, which is the reason why in 2018 and in 2019, ShelterBox was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Most recently, ShelterBox has had one of our largest natural disaster responses in our history in the Philippines with Super Typhoon Rai, where we brought emergency shelter to over 100,000 people last year alone. It's an area that's endemic to typhoons, and it's an area where ShelterBox, because of your support, has established ShelterBox Operations Philippines in Cebu, where we pre-position aid ready to go when disasters strike. In 2023, ShelterBox has been responding to some of the world's biggest disaster and crisis situations. We've been responding in southern Turkey and northern Syria for the earthquakes, in Cameroon, across the Lake Chad Basin of Africa, in Ukraine, helping families that have been displaced by the war, and most recently, we've been deployed to Morocco, where I just returned this week, where we're providing emergency shelter to 6,000 people who lost their homes in an instant. The force multiplier that really powers the work of ShelterBox is an elite group of volunteers that comprise the ShelterBox response team. These are people from all walks of life, from all across the world, that train continually to be able to go to the front lines of disaster situations with ShelterBox. They're known as the ShelterBox Response Team, and they serve in both disaster and conflict situations. Tonight, we're so fortunate to have one of the ShelterBox Response Team members here with us. He is just recently back from deployment, where he's been serving as team lead in Morocco. He's also deployed this year in the series of earthquakes in southern Turkey, northern Syria, helping lead that response. This gentleman serves on the board of trustees. He is a former board member with ShelterBox USA, and we are so grateful for his participation here tonight. Thank you so much, Bill Decker, for being here. Bill, it's so great to have you here. Welcome back from deployment.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a delight to be here.
And thank you for your service to ShelterBox and to all the families that we're serving all across the world. Bill, can you tell everyone really what motivated you to become a ShelterBox Response Team member? How long you've been serving and where you have deployed?
Yeah, I became a response team member in 2009, and I was very motivated at the time because I had some commercial success in building a business, but I felt like I needed to do more and find an avenue of service to the world at the time. I've deployed since then to several places: Haiti, Peru, Indonesia, and most recently Turkey, as well as Morocco.
So tell us about Morocco. I know that this is a very large response. I was with you in Morocco, and it was a devastation that I hadn't seen in many years firsthand. But can you tell us a bit about that response and your involvement in it, what you were doing in Morocco?
Sure. Yeah, the earthquake happened about 100 miles south of Marrakesh and deep in the Atlas Mountains. There's hundreds of small villages that dot that countryside and mountainscape, ranging in size of 15 families to 100 families. And many of these villages are literally clinging to the side of the mountains around them. The materials that these buildings are made out of are not terribly suitable for big earthquakes, and we saw some places that were pretty heavily devastated as a result. The people really showed their resilience and have been on a path of recovery since then. What we did was we went in and went to about 19 villages when I was leading that part of the organization, and we delivered aid to almost 1,300 families, about 6,000 people. We used local volunteers in the process to help us. We would train them up and then take them with us around to the different villages to help the people. And it's really evidence that the community galvanizes around helping themselves, and we empower them when we're there to do that. It reminds me of an event that happened when I was there. There was a woman who was sobbing right next to one of the distribution trucks, and she was sitting with a young boy, and I took my interpreter over and asked her what was happening, and she had indicated that she'd lost her husband prior in the year, so she was a widow, and she had 3 children, 2 of which had perished in the earthquake, and she had 1 child left, and it was a young boy. And when the aid was being distributed, she looked up and said, "Mom, is Daddy going to come and help us move all this stuff back to our house?" And immediately the community kicks in to help those people who are in most need. And a team of people took her gear and went and built her tent for her and got her moved in as a priority. And that's the type of thing you see time and time again, just people helping each other. So really the final piece of that is that we're in the home stretch now of delivering the aid, a couple more places to go. And we really try to get to the most remote places. The weather is turning, there's a little bit of a sense of urgency. There was some snow coming down last week when I left, and probably some when you were there as well. Really accessing by any means we can, using donkeys and humans and anything else we can do to reach these people who are highly marginalized in some of these more remote places. And I'm proud to say that we're being effective at doing that.
Well, thank you again, Bill, for your service. We look forward to learning more about your service throughout the night. And now we'd like to take you to the front lines of ShelterBox's response deep in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco. Hello, I'm Kerri Murray, president of ShelterBox USA, and I'm here in El House, where ShelterBox is distributing emergency shelter and vital supplies to families who've lost so much in the devastating earthquake that hit here in Morocco back in September. Over 3,000 people lost their lives and hundreds of thousands of people were displaced when so many villages across this province were reduced to rubble. Today I had the opportunity to meet so many families that we're distributing supplies to, including Fatma. Fatma tragically lost her husband in the earthquake in September, and she's beginning the long road to recovery here in Morocco. ShelterBox today provided Fatma's family with a standard relief tent from ShelterBox. It'll be the place that she calls home. In addition, we're providing high thermal blankets, cook sets, and solar lanterns. These are a lifeline for these families to kickstart their recovery, but also to survive what will likely be a very cold winter here in the Atlas Mountains. In told, we will reach over 20 villages that really bore the brunt of the damage of the earthquake. And all of this is because of our partnership with Rotary, Grand Atlas, the local communities here that have done so much to enable the work of ShelterBox, and to all of you who've made this work possible. We are so grateful. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll continue to keep you posted here on a response in Morocco. There's still a lot of work left to do in Morocco. Our response teams are still on the ground in the Atlas Mountains as they're working to get these shelters up in time for the really cold weather that's due to set in the next few weeks. One of the ties that bind our ability to do the humanitarian work of ShelterBox all across the world is partnership. We have so many global partners, local partners, international, large-scale partners, but our longest-standing partner at ShelterBox is with Rotary International. ShelterBox remains the official project partner of Rotary in emergency situations. Now, Bill, I know you worked hand in hand with Rotary in Morocco, but also you worked very closely with them on your deployment earlier in the year in southern Turkey. So can you tell us a bit about that response? We know that the earthquake in Turkey killed over 50,000 people. It displaced millions, and you were one of the first folks on the ground to help bring relief efforts there with our local partners. So if you could share a bit more about how we worked with Rotary in Turkey and how that response took shape.
Sure. As with many responses that we do, sometimes governments don't want to allow entry of an NGO like ShelterBox, and we have to use different channels to gain access. One thing that happened both in Morocco and in Turkey was our ability to leverage our relationship that's been in existence since day one with Rotary International. And it oftentimes is a Rotary club that might reach out to ShelterBox and say, hey, we would love for you to come and help us. And it really facilitates us getting past some of those barriers that might exist in countries like Turkey in this case, where there was an election that was coming that year and the government did not really want to see many organizations running around. We were able to partner with the local Rotary in Antep, or Gaziantep in Turkey. And not only did they show us some of the villages that were in desperate need, they actually were very hands-on in helping us to get out there and deliver aid. One village that I can think of was one called David, and it had 150 homes in it prior to the earthquake, and there were 9 left. It had 100 full-time occupants, and there were 49 left after the earthquake. Their fields were moving to fallow. They had cabbage that was ready to be harvested, and it was all sitting there rotting in the field. These people were living just outside of their pre-existing structures among the rubble. And this is a marginalized population of Alawites, ethno-religious group from Syria and in Turkey that have 0 political rights and had not an ounce of government aid offered to them because they have no political power. And we were able to go in and provide aid to them with the help of Rotary and really make a difference in a group that otherwise would have been forgotten.
Thank you again for your service there. We'd like to take you now to the front lines of that response in Turkey.
Çok güzeldi. Bir yattım. Sonra işte şeyle uyandım. Çok kötü bir gürültü, ses. Oradan oraya, oradan oraya fırlıyorsun. Bir baktım eşime seslendim. Koş. Sallanıyoruz herhalde. Deprem oluyor dedim. Yıkıla yıkıla çıktık.
ShelterBox is a global community. Together with our project partner Rotary International, we work to make sure no one is without shelter after disaster. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, so we listen to what people need. Then we adapt our response to meet complex situations, like the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and northern Syria.
Everybody, wanted to respond after the earthquake. So from the first week, we have started meetings with ShelterBox, Rotary in Turkey, our district, and the other districts. We were getting requests from the field. We were evaluating it together, and we were distributing it with ShelterBox people, with Rotarians. I think ShelterBox is having a vital role here to provide the first, the basic needs. The bottom line is to provide the sheltering and security. That's an important dedication to what humanity needs.
Shelter is the foundation for life, a foundation for survival, stability, and dignity, enabling people like Nurgal to take steps towards recovery.
Yaşıyorduk, mutlu, sağlıklı, huzurlu bir şekilde yaşıyorduk. Zorluklarla yaptığımız evimiz, bütün birikimlerimizle yaptığımız evimiz yerle bir oldu 6 Şubat. Evet, çok güzel sıcak tutuyor. Güzel yapmış yapan. Bana ait hani orayı fermuarı çektiğim zaman oh diyorum hani kafam rahat. Evimiz olması. Yemek de rahat yiyemem, yapamam da. Ama burada zevkle çayımı da içiyorum, kahvemi de içiyorum. Evimizi yaptığınız için teşekkür ediyorum.
Bill, as you know, disasters often garner the public awareness via the headlines. And all too often, those disasters garner the private charitable support. They capture the hearts and minds of the entire world, like the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria this year. But so much of the work of ShelterBox is really responding to just the conflict situations, the violence that's permeating our world today, and the things that aren't making the headlines. One of those places in our world where we see some of the most vulnerable people are in Cameroon. So many people, refugees from Nigeria, are flooding into Cameroon, and they're seeking refuge at the Minowao refugee camp. ShelterBox has been a major provider of humanitarian aid at the Minowao refugee camp for many years. One of the things that we know today is that of the 110 million people displaced in our world, 75% are women and children. These women often flee violence. They leave with little more than the clothes on their back. They have their children in tow, and they wind up at the Minowao refugee camp. Oftentimes, they could spend a period of weeks in the transit center as they are then processed into the camp, where on average refugees are displaced 17 years. And so it could be several years living in the camp setting. At ShelterBox, we prioritize the most vulnerable. They often tend to be women, children, elderly, and disabled. But we know that these families are absolutely pivotal to community recovery, and women specifically are central to helping rebuild their communities. So at ShelterBox, we've had a very important role at the Minowao camp. We are the only provider of tents to new arrivals at the camp. And so One of the major things that happens for a refugee when they're processed into the camp is they receive a plot of land from the government and they receive their ShelterBox aid package, which often includes a ShelterBox tent and essential aid items like solar lanterns, blankets, kitchen sets, and more. These aid items are a lifeline to these families to kickstart their recovery. I'd now like to take you to the front lines of our work at the Minowa refugee camp and introduce you to Kaltumi, who has been a refugee living in the Minowa camp.
Sun yi barna da kace-kace sun yi barna. Yanzu yara na ma biyu sun tafi da shi. Ɗaya shekara 21, ɗaya shekara 18. To shi ne sanadin da raina ya ɓace ma muka fita da babanmu din ma muka zo nan.
My name is Flora and I'm the Cameroon Programme Manager at ShelterBox. 40 miles east of the Nigerian border lies Minowal Camp. We have been working in Minowal Camp since 2015. It's officially home to 75,000 refugees, and the number is only growing as people arrive every day.
Lafiya kalan muna zama yara na duka suna makaranta. To hankali na a kwance ba, na gode ma Allah ba. Hankali na a kwance daban da ɗakin da yanzu yana yoyo da na baya yoyo kaga daban ne. Tun na zo gari nan so ɗaya na samu, wancan ɗin ma tamful ne kawai na samu, amma gashi wannan alhamdulillah na samu tamful. Katakaunawa 8 ne ma na samu, na kara 5 gashi na gyara na sai wannan boro 18 sai na rufe da rumfa na wannan. Ina godiya sosai, su ma Allah da ya kara ba bude musu, ina godiya sosai, Allah ya bude musu, Allah ya sa 'ya'yansu masu yi musu haka gobe. Na gode musu sosai.
The needs are urgent, and we are relied upon as a key actor to support people here. If you can, please donate to this overlooked crisis. It genuinely means so much to the people here. Thank you.
Thank you for your ongoing support. Our work would not be possible without your help.
It wouldn't be. And as you know, ShelterBox relies on private charitable support that powers the mission of this global humanitarian organization. This is the part of the night I love. It's when we're able to honor an individual or organization with the 2023 Global Humanitarian Service Award. This year, we are honoring a couple who've had a profound impact on the work of ShelterBox. They've been long-term supporters of our work. They're our cheerleaders, our champions, and they really believe in helping to transform the lives of people they'll never meet, but who they can have a massive impact on helping the recovery of. So tonight, we are so honored to be able to recognize Jeff and Cindy Harker with the 2023 Global Humanitarian Service Award. Jeff and Cindy, thank you so much. I know that you're joining us live from Libertyville, Illinois. So thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kerri. Words can't really express how honored we are to even be considered for this award. You know, Cindy and I first got involved with ShelterBox probably about 12 years ago through my Rotary Club. I'm a 32-year Rotarian, and this is Libertyville Club, and we had a presentation, and it really became part of us. We are truly blessed with a great family, great home, and so much in our lives. And the thought that people were going without due to the devastation of the floods and violence and everything wasn't right. So we felt that this is really something we had to get behind, and ShelterBox Missions is honestly what we really believe.
It's truly a passion of ours to be able to do this, and I would really like to thank the Lord for blessing us with so much so that we can give back and help others, which the Lord wants us to do. And we are very, very happy to do so and feel blessed that we can do so. So thank you very much for this amazing award, which we would love to show you now.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
At ShelterBox, our work in the world's most extreme conflict zones has been the fastest growing piece of our work. This includes the war in Ukraine. ShelterBox began responding at the beginning of the conflict, at the beginning of March of 2022, when what we saw in the region was the fastest growing displacement crisis since World War II. Millions of people fleeing from eastern Ukraine to western Ukraine, and then millions of people then fleeing to the neighboring countries and throughout Europe. We know that this has created a massive challenge for Ukrainians, and we've remained absolutely committed to meeting the displacement needs. That includes helping families who are sheltering in place in damaged homes. It's people who were sheltering in evacuation centers, churches, schools, train stations. And it also includes families who fled and refugee families who fled to neighboring Moldova. Over the course of 2023, ShelterBox has continued to respond. Since the war started, we've brought emergency shelter or vital supplies to over 70,000 people who've been displaced by the war. This past winter, I had the opportunity to deploy again to the region, this time in Kyiv, where ShelterBox was responding in Kyiv Oblast. We were working with many internally displaced Ukrainians. They were fleeing from the Russia-occupied areas of the east, areas like Donetsk, and they were sheltering in basements. We've often found could be 50 people that were sheltering in a basement without light, without heat, without running water. And it was the middle of winter. It's freezing. And so ShelterBox was really working to meet the immediate needs and meet people in the moment they were in at that time. So it was everything from high thermal sleeping bags to coats, solar lanterns, to actually wood stoves for these families. These items were an absolute lifeline to the families who were displaced. Since the crisis started, we have brought shelter and or aid supplies to over 70,000 people, and our work in Ukraine is not done yet. This winter, we will be providing more winterized aid to help families survive a very difficult war that continues to rage on in Ukraine. I'd like to take you now to the front lines of our work in Ukraine, where you can meet some of the families that ShelterBox has been supporting.
За час війни в мене помер син. В мене помер чоловік. До конфлікту у нас було, у мене сім'я 12 чоловік, була дуже радісна, ми робили, ми жили, ми процвітали, ми стремилися до лучшого, ми щось міняли в лучшу сторону і надіялися, буде лучше. До війни в мене були хазяйство, були курочки, город обробляли, ми робили, як жили повноцінним життям. Займалися, садили квіточки, городину, щоб було лучше, щоб ми просто радувалися життю. І таке прийшло до нас горе велике.
Оце ось улетіло прямо з огорода. І від двора влетіло. А ці всі повилітали, це я понаходив куски, повставляв отак. Усі там. Перший раз пролетіло, сину на роботу дзвонив, отут метрів 50 от це. Тому що зв'язь тільки там була. Тільки подзвонив, ну метрів 5 дійшов. Прилетіло прямо на те місце, де я дзвонив. Так я після того боявся, навіть з неділі не дзвонив.
Ми сильні українці, правильно чи ні? Ми сильна нація, ми сильні всі. Нас не кинули на призволяче, що ми люди обездолені є, що побиті є війною. Нас усі допомагали. Це за це, кажу, дуже низький їм всім уклін. Усім.
With millions of people in Ukraine still displaced, our work there is not done yet. As you know, we are gearing up for the cold winter months. Everything from high thermal sleeping bags, solar lanterns, lightweight mattresses, could be stoves, but the essentials for people to survive this winter and meet them in the moment that they're in. And we will continue to respond there. But this year's been a massive year for us, and we've been responding all over the world, and we've drawn down on lots of our inventories. So can you tell us, Bill, what we need to do? That we're moving into, I think, one of the exciting parts of the night and really enabling our humanitarian mission.
Yeah, we've had an extraordinary year. We've been very active. We've been in Turkey and we've been in Morocco, and many of the things that you see around us right here are examples of what we send into the field, and those things are significantly depleted. We've been very aggressive with getting those items out to our participants in the field, and we need to restock. We try to keep a big significant amount of stock out in different pre-positioned locations around the world, be it in Dubai or Singapore or Panama, and we draw on those stocks to be able to respond.
We do. So we're a model of pre-positioning. We've drawn down a lot and we need to replenish. And we're also gearing up to be prepared to respond in what we hope will be even a bigger year in 2024. So tonight we are going to ask for you to participate. And if you're so moved, please make a donation for this life-saving work. I see that many people already have tonight, so I want to say thank you very much. And I'm super excited tonight to announce to you a match donation. We have a $50,000 match donation from the ShelterBox USA Board of Directors and the Tonkinson Family Foundation. So thank you so much for this generous match gift. It's incredible. Right now, we are at $138,626 of a goal of $250,000. And we want to illustrate to you how you can make an impact. Where does the money go? Where do your charitable donations get invested? So there are so many ways to contribute. And if we raise tonight $1 million, we could sponsor an entire deployment like you've heard about, like the one in Morocco. 20 villages, 6,000 people, and obviously just a life-saving deployment for this organization. Mm-hmm. That's what we're able to do. For $250,000, we can sponsor a community with tents and shelter kits, lights, blankets, the essentials things that people need to survive the winter. For $100,000, what can we do? Well, we can bring 1,000 shelter kits to families. So the shelter kits that you saw that we are deploying in Ukraine, which help repair homes that have been damaged. The shelter kits that provide a single room structure in places like the Philippines, where we served 100,000 people last year for Typhoon Rai. They have immense impact on the communities that we're deploying in. For $25,000, we can help 25 families with those custom shelter solutions. So the full tent, the full aid package, the lights, the kitchen sets, the blankets. This is the place that a family will call home for many months. In Morocco, with this deployment, it's at least 6 months that they'll be living in these tents. So you can have a transformational impact. For $10,000, it is going to be 150 families receiving winter warmth this year. So that's the high thermal blankets, it's sleeping bags, it's basic stoves, the essentials people need to survive the winter in places like Syria and also Ukraine. For $5,000, we can provide 5 custom packs. And these are custom shelters, again, the tents and all the household aid items that we shared with you tonight. This, again, is a lifeline for these families who've been displaced. For $1,000, you can sponsor a family and you can bring an entire aid package to one family that's been displaced. For $500, you can bring clean water to 10 households, and those water filters can really filter thousands of liters of fresh water for the families. $100 will provide a family a single shelter kit that is a place to call home for a family. And $50 will provide the solar lights. Those are some of the items that we hear are really most popular by the beneficiaries that we're serving, particularly those that have no power. So absolutely essential and a lifeline to those families. So there are so many ways to contribute and get involved and participate at so many different levels, which is super exciting. Can we say thank you to some of the people? We see lots of donations coming in, so I'd love to be able to thank some of you. Keep donating, and it looks like we've already met the match, which is absolutely incredible. Do you want to share some of this, Bill?
We have David Adder with a $2,000 donation, Andrew Morse with $1,000, Arlene Quirk with $1,000, Maya, if I don't want to mess up your name, Maya.
Hi, Maya. I know you, Maya. Maya in our pod. Thank you so much.
$1,000. Thank you, Maya. Summer Jaber, $2,500. Dean Varner, $2,500. Mason Morfitt, $10,000. Thank you, Mason. Phil Reed, $5,000.
Thank you so much. I see more donations coming in. John McGovern, $10,000. Thank you so much. We also have a big surprise. It is a $500,000 anonymous donation that's come in as well. That is massive. Thank you so much to our anonymous donors tonight. That is incredible, just incredible. We can do so much with the collective power of all of you. Also, I know we have several members of an incredible partner that we have all across the world, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Thank you so much for participating tonight and for everything you've done to enable the life-saving work all across the globe. Bill, I'd love, as the donations continue to come in, and I hope we can get closer to that $1 million mark, because it means a whole deployment. So this is amazing. Yep. I want to talk about some of these aid items. And I know when we were in Morocco over the past week, we saw many people living in ShelterBox tents, but utilizing the aid items that we provided. And I think one of the things that is so critical to recovery is the cook sets, and just restoring a sense of routine, a sense of normalcy for a family, connecting a family, connecting a community. Many of these families who've been displaced are living very close to each other in the tents, and they have community kitchens. They're cooking and sharing meals together. And so these stainless steel cook sets are an absolute lifeline for the families.
They really are. In fact, as we came back from Morocco, the common joke was that we ate 6 meals per day. And food is a very big part of the culture there and how people connect, how they recover, how they communicate, a very big part of the daily ritual. And these things are little things that just kind of bring back that sense of normalcy to the communities that we're serving. So not to be underestimated.
A lifeline. Another lifeline are these collapsible solar lanterns. They ship flat and you blow them up and the light diffuses, as you can see, and they're often used as a chandelier in the tent, but they're also often utilized at night.
That's right. We had a moment where we were trying to figure out where all these things went because we distributed a lot of them and we couldn't see them charging down in the villages that we were serving. And we sent a group up to the top area where the women were preparing meals during the daytime, and we saw an entire row of them being charged up along the top of a tree. They were using them to come down for sleeping at night as a guide for their own safety to get down into their areas, and then we take them back with them. One of the more critical pieces of safety and convenience that we can provide to our participants.
Incredibly useful, and I've often heard, especially from the female recipients, that these are just so crucial. So we know that disasters disproportionately affect women, and particularly gender-based violence, and oftentimes in camp settings, can be a real concern.
It can.
So having something like a light, really feeling that sense of protection, particularly when they're going out in the evening at night.
That's right.
Navigating. So these are crucial. Bill, can you talk about these water filters?
I sure can. This is the Thirst Aid water station, and it's a gravity-fed filtration device that runs about 1,000 liters of water through it. That's a lot of single-use plastics that are saved, and that's oftentimes what we find in many of the disaster zones. Pretty critical piece of kit, and oftentimes water supplies are compromised in all types of the disasters that we deal with. Flooding, typhoons, and earthquakes alike. Very important in maintaining public health.
Incredible. I want to stop just for a second because there's more donations coming in. Thank you so much, Jeff and Christy Singer. Brad Singer, thank you for your donations, incredibly generous. Joel McDonald, and another anonymous donation for $5,000. Right now we're at $661,000.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible. And this is coming really at a crucial time.
Yeah.
So last year was our single largest year in our humanitarian history in terms of the number of people that we supported across the world. So what's interesting about ShelterBox is that we were founded on the backbones of volunteers, as you know, in the year 2000. And we've served nearly 3 million people over 23 years. But the founders of the organization really thought that they were going to deliver maybe a couple dozen boxes a year, maybe help a few dozen families. Well, we have grown exponentially. It took us 15 years to reach the first million people. It took us 5 years to reach the second. And we've really been accelerating the growth of our humanitarian mission. And that is because of you. And so this is truly passion in action. This is the ability to really help someone that you will never meet, but you will transform their lives and you will enable their recovery with ShelterBox. So it's just incredible how many of you have turned up tonight and are supporting this mission, but we could not do this work without you. I want to talk about some of these other aid items that we see, particularly as we reach the cold months, right? These are very warm, high thermal blankets. You've seen them stacked up.
Yeah, and the feedback from the field on these blankets is it's about the same warmth as 1.5 to 2 of the blankets that they typically get distributed in the field by other organizations. So I'm really proud of these, that we bring something very high quality into these villages, and they see it and they appreciate it right out of the gates. So very important, especially this time of year in Morocco, as we just witnessed.
Yeah, the winterized aid is a lifeline in so many places. In addition to the high thermal blankets, I know back in the winter months when I was working in Kyiv, it was also high thermal sleeping bags. It's also coats, it's children's boots, basic things, because it is so cold, and oftentimes, you know, when we're reaching families, they're sleeping outdoors in these situations. So these are a lifeline. More donations coming in. Thank you so much, Grant Dry Rough. It's so amazing, these incredible donations. We appreciate you so much. There are so many ways to get involved and to give. And I know we have many ambassadors on the line tonight, so thank you so much to our ambassadors who help raise awareness and help raise charitable support for the mission. Thank you for being here, all the Rotarians that are here as well, and Rotary clubs that have been donating. But there are other really unique ways that people have been getting involved. And one of the ways is through our Adventurers Trek. And so this year we had a group of incredible volunteers that went to Yosemite, and they spent 3 nights and 4 days trekking and raising awareness for the life-saving work of ShelterBox. So we will have 2 treks in 2024. Those are soon to be announced, and we hope that if you want to combine your passion for the outdoors with your passion for ShelterBox, that you'll come with us on one of these humanitarian treks.
By virtue of being here with us tonight, you're already part of a global community that cares about the rest of the world and wants to make a difference. And I think the Adventure Trek is a really nice way to participate in that as well.
Incredible. Thank you so much. So we're at 662, 876. It's incredible.
I'd like to pause at this moment to make a recognition. 8 years ago, we hired an extraordinary person into ShelterBox to be our president. It's Kerri Murray. And it's her 8th anniversary, and you have been a force of nature for this organization, and we are all incredibly grateful to you.
Thank you.
I hope that you'll all join me in supporting Kerri by continuing to support some of the things we're talking about here behind me.
Wow. Thank you, Bill. I feel like it's an incredible privilege to be able to do the work that we do. And with that comes an incredible responsibility, because when we go to the field, so often the beneficiaries say thank you to us, right? Mm-hmm. And we feel so fortunate to be able to work alongside them and just provide them the tools to enable their self-recovery. But really, that thanks is really on our shoulders, but it belongs to you. It belongs to all of the people who make this humanitarian mission possible. And I'm very mindful when I'm there in the field that it's all of you that make this happen. And the organization has grown exponentially in helping to meet our mission over the past several years. And that's because so many people have dug deep and they continue to support this incredible work around the world. Thank you so much again, Tonkinson Family Foundation. Thank you for stepping up this year and being a major supporter of this event this year. We're at 667,000. We have only a few minutes to go. I want to look at just a couple other aid items. And this is part of the shelter kit. So we showed you the tarps and the shelter kits and the tarps and tools that we provide to families, but I'd love for you to share how these get used in the field.
Well, we do aid projects in some agrarian places, and literally this is used sometimes in the arable land around the areas that we're working. One of the bigger ways it's used is for trenching around the bases of a tent. Mm-hmm. So we'll while the tent has some pretty extraordinary features that allow water to run off of it, sometimes that water doesn't really have a place to go. Mm-hmm. And this is really handy for helping to remove that sort of swamp factor away from the base of these tents. Probably one of the more sought after items in the shelter kit because of its versatility.
We often see people continue to use these items as well, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
For work after.
Yep, so true.
Okay, so I think just a few other aid items. These are lightweight but waterproof ground mats that people mm-hmm. are sleeping on. So in some instances, we're providing carpets, right, to provide another thermal layer of insulation. Yep. But oftentimes, we're often providing these waterproof ground mats that people will sleep on.
Yeah, these are rated to -20 Fahrenheit so that they won't crack or become brittle when they hit the cold earth. Just another example of the quality of what we're actually putting out there into the field.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Bill, would you mind just sharing a bit about some of the features of the tent? We get asked all the time, can I buy the tent? That looks like a super camping tent, but it's not a camping tent. It's made for humanitarian purposes, and it can withstand extraordinary wind, rain, elements. So if you can just describe a bit.
Sure, yeah. I think everybody got a tour of that tent earlier tonight with you as they walk through. It is probably the most extraordinary humanitarian tent that is out there, and I've seen a lot of them all over the world. I've lived in this tent in Haiti for quite some time, and I can attest to some of the features, air circulation being one that you just don't see in a lot of other types of tents. It has a high hydrostatic head, so water, when it gets driven into it at 110 kilometers per hour, it doesn't go through the material into the tent. And it's capable of withstanding winds of up to 110 kilometers per hour. So really an extraordinary piece of equipment, and we can offer a winter package with it as well, where we can wrap the interior with a space blanket type material that'll allow it to retain heat over time. And that's another key sort of piece of the flexibility of this piece of gear.
Awesome. Thank you. We are moving to the end of the night, and so far we are at 667,976.
Amazing.
It's so amazing. We do this once a year, and this is absolutely crucial for ShelterBox being ready and having all of these aid materials staged and ready to go so that we can move efficiently and effectively when disasters or violent conflict strikes and we're called on to deploy. And from what I've seen over my 8 years is that we're only getting called upon more and more and more to respond to these situations. And we're going to do everything that we can to continue to meet the needs. But the reality is that it's anticipated global displacement will grow from 110 million. It's estimated to grow to over 200 million in the next 2 decades. So it is a problem that is only growing in scale. We know that. Disasters and conflicts and the impacts of climate change are really affecting this number, and it could be even far beyond that. Some analysts.
That represents a 20-fold increase over just right about the time that ShelterBox started. It's staggering to think that those numbers are what they are and are continuing to unfortunately grow.
Yeah. So I want to say a big thank you. I want to say a big thank you to all of the staff, the volunteers, the board at ShelterBox that made tonight possible. To all of you for participating. We are archiving tonight's session, so if you think anyone would be moved by this humanitarian work, feel free. We'll send a link that you can send and share it. But this is how we do the work of the organization, right? It's really grassroots level. It's people who step up and get involved, who want to make a difference and have an impact. And so please share the work of ShelterBox. Thank you so much for giving and giving generously. We've now surpassed 668,000. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you and all of the effort you made to come tonight and really learn about this global effort. We will continue to keep you posted as we move towards the end of the year. We finish up our project in Morocco and obviously continue distributions for the winter in so many other places. But thank you, Bill, for being here. I know you're fresh off deployment and you've contributed so much to this organization as a volunteer and servant to this organization. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a privilege to serve.
And we will leave the donations open throughout the days to come so you can continue to give. And we are so excited. We've surpassed 668,526 off of our goal of 250,000. So thank you everyone. And we're so grateful that you came tonight, and we will see you very soon. Take care.
Thank you.